ಅದೇ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಗೋ ಟು ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದ್ರೆ
ಬರ್ಬೋದಾ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್?
ಸಾಯಂಕಾಲ
ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತು. ಓಪನ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಬಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ MBA ಮಾತ್ರ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಇಲ್ಲ ನಾನು ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ ಅದು ಒಂದು PDF ಅಂತ ಕಳ್ಸೋದಲ್ಲ.
ವೆಂಕಟೇಶ್ ಎಲ್ಲಾರ್ಗು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಬೆಟರ್.
ಹಾ ಮೇಡಮ್
ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
Shall I start, madam? Now it is one way.
ಮಾಡಿ.
Sweta, start, madam.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor for me to welcome the galaxy of intellectuals who are gathered here. I, Sweta S, welcome you all on behalf of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, UVC, for today's webinar on applications of data analytics.
Now the participant can view in YouTube also. It is live now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Audible, sir.
Hello.
Audible, sir. You are audible, sir.
Okay, sir. Okay.
I, Shweta S, welcome you all on behalf of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, UVC, for today's webinar on applications of in industry. Series of webinars were conducted by Department of Computer Science and Engineering, UVC, during COVID-19. Today's webinar is sixth in series. Now I call upon Tanushri, student, first year CSE, to seek the blessings of Almighty.
गणनायकाय गणाध्यक्षाय धीमहि गुणशरीराय गुणमण्डिताय गुणेशानाय धीमहि गुणातीताय गुणाधीशाय गुणप्रविष्टाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय बालचन्द्राय गणेशाय धीमहि एकदन्ताय वक्रतुण्डाय गौरीतनयाय धीमहि गजेशानाय बालचन्द्राय श्रीगणेशाय धीमहि. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanushri. Now I call upon our webinar coordinator, Dr. Venkatesh, to welcome the audience.
Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the Department of Computer Science and Engineering, UVC, I, Venkatesh, and Arunatha JS, coordinators, are truly delighted to welcome you all for today's webinar on applications of data analytics in industry. It is with a great pleasure that I heartily welcome our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Venugopal K.R. Sir, for this webinar. It's my privilege to welcome Dr. H.N. Ramesh, Principal Sir, UVC, for today's webinar. I would like to extend a warm welcome to Dr. P. Deepashane, Dean, Faculty of Engineering, Professor in the Department of Computer Science Engineering, for today's webinar. A warm welcome to Dr. Dilip Kumar SM, Chairperson and Professor in the Department of Computer Science Engineering, UVC, Bangalore, for today's webinar. It's indeed a pleasure to welcome the speaker of today's webinar, Professor Pradyumna R, a Senior Director as Chief Transformation Officer, Publicis Sapient, Bangalore. A warm welcome to all the faculty members of the department, the faculty members of the UVC, the faculty members from the other institutes, our guest faculty, research scholars, and PhD students. Once again, I welcome you all present here for this seminar. I wish and hope that everyone will make use of this webinar fruitfully and make it grand success. Thank you. Over to Sweta.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Mr. Pradyumna. Mr. Pradyumna is a Senior Director and Chief Transformation Officer for Retail Engineering at Publicis Sapient. He leads global delivery across retail and data engagement, solving problems across US, UK, Europe, Middle East, APAC, and Australian subcontinents. He has successfully seeded strategic business initiatives, transforming them into profitable service offerings and COEs. He has a bachelor's degree in computer science and engineering and master's in marketing. He is an active PMI certified PMP with certification in Scrum, CSN, Safe Agile, Indian Institute of Banking and Finance, and Dun and Bradstreet Finance. His experience spans across strategy, consulting, pre-sales, delivery, account management, P&L, operations and PMO, capability building, capacity planning, resourcing, partnership, and vendor management. I welcome you, sir. Now, without further delay, I request the resource person, Mr. Pradyumna, to proceed with the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity.
Principal ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ ವೆಂಕಟೇಶ್.
Yes, ಬಂದಿದೆ ಸರ್.
Am I audible?
ಬಂದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. Welcome sir, principal sir.
Welcome principal sir. Welcome you sir.
Wish you all the best. Please
Thank you
continue.
sir. Thank you sir.
Please continue. All the best.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I did some network issue. I could not join on time. I wish you all the best.
Thank you sir.
Thank you sir anyhow for your presence.
Please continue.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You can start.
Yeah. Am I audible?
Yes sir.
Okay. Cool. So let me just share my
Yes
screen.
sir. Nagaraj.
Is my screen also visible?
Yes sir.
Okay. Firstly, thank you for the opportunity to address the community and the forum. So today I would be embarking on sharing some of the experiences and some stories, basically how the industry has adapted data and analytics in their pursuit of excellence, in pursuit of their survival, and also in pursuit of leading some of the space in the industry itself. I'll not go deep into why data is really needed. I believe all of us understand the importance of data at this point in time, and why data is pretty much needed across the globe, and how the industries are going to be using it is something which we will talk about today. So with the current situation, I hope everybody is safe and sound. I wish everybody good health. And in the current situation, we have seen that in the last couple of months, due to the pandemic, there has been stressful times for every industry, be it one particular industry or across, be it small scale, medium or large industries. Everybody has had some challenges in terms of how do they start reacting to the current situation. So with that, if we really look at what is actually the situation and how the industries are seeing through this pandemic is PwC did a survey a couple of months ago during the start of the COVID, and they figured out like close to 90% of the industries or organizations really said that COVID is impacting them in some shape or form, right? Some of them are getting impacted largely, some of them getting impacted probably at a less impact, but ultimately COVID is really impacting them in some shape or form. And how does this look in terms of their business outlooks? If you really see, either it is a direct impact on their revenue or profits, or is it is also because that they are unable to carry on with their day-to-day routine in terms of how they do business, the new ways of working, and a lot of other challenges is actually creating that impact. So this is a quick snapshot about how the current situation is, and how is the spending pattern, because we are all talking about economy needs more improvement, there needs to be energy that needs to be pumped into the economy, but how has COVID really impacted in terms of a spend? If you really look at it across the industries here, there are two industries which potentially has had a positive impact, the insurance and medical. because everybody, as soon as the COVID started, we could clearly see there has been a substantial investment and expenditure in the medical insurances which people actually took. And also there has been a spend in the medical area to make sure everybody is safe and healthy. But rest of all the other industries did get impacted. Some of them probably got impacted more, some of them got impacted less, right? Having said that, is it that the future is bleak? No, the future is definitely not bleak. There is a new norm which has come in, and the industries are also figuring out how to really adapt to this new norm. Few of them are leading the change, few of them are reacting to the change, and few of them are still figuring out what is the best way to really adapt to this new change. Having said that, let me just give you a few examples of how some of the organizations which have gone through these scenarios or similar situations and how they were able to come back is something which is notable here. Organizations which have been really agile and which could adapt to changes have been able to make up to the mark. I'll just take few examples here. Adobe, the current CEO of Adobe, when he took over, he moved away from a product selling standpoint to a subscription model. And when he took that decision, everybody in the industry actually reacted to that, saying this is not a great decision. And even the Adobe shares fell quite a bit. But if you really look at after 2 to 3 years of that decision taken, pretty much everybody in the industry is moving towards subscription model, and Adobe is leading that change. Now the shares have really improved, and that is kind of a visionary which the CEO brought in when he took over the reins. Similarly, McDonald's, I believe every one of us here know McDonald's. And McDonald's not just standardized their entire product chain. If you go to McDonald's in the US or in Europe or in India or any other place, pretty much the French fries taste would not change. So the way they have standardized it, the way they have productionized it, and the systems they have put in has been instrumental in making those changes in place. Now they are also leading the change. Excuse me, there was a noise at my end. So now they are leading the change in terms of transformation, where there is a drive-through and they are able to look at customer preferences and then also offer and recommend their choices to the customer even before the customer comes and orders over the store. The other one is Ostered. Ostered, for people who do not know, it's an energy company. Okay. And they were more in terms of fossil fuel. And when all the green energy and the carbon footprint discussion started, they took a again a bold decision to move away from the black energy to the green energy. So now they are leading some of the green energy production in the European region. Similarly, Marriott, Airbnb really disrupted Marriott's business model altogether, right? Airbnb did not own any assets, but Marriott had a lot of assets, which was also a liability to them from management standpoint. And they were trying to see how they can encounter this new challenge. And they started off with a new campaign called Bon Voyage. And they also adopted some of the, Airbnb type of model to come up. At this point in time, obviously, they have been majorly impacted, especially the travel and hospitality industry. All in all, like be it airlines or hotels or restaurant chains and all of these guys are majorly impacted due to the COVID situation. I'm sure in the coming times, they're going to come back with a big bang. Similarly, Netflix, if you remember, we were all, buying CDs for music and movies. Netflix saw this change. Instead of content distribution, they started content creation. And now pretty much everybody has followed their footsteps. Amazon is creating their own content. Star is creating their own content. Similarly, every other channels and the media houses are creating their own content, similar to how we see in the TV channels, and that is also leading change. One of the recent examples is also Mahindra. when the COVID situation hit, they stepped up and they started actually producing ventilators to support the Indian system. So that is how they reacted to the change. And the way they could do that was they were agile, they were adaptive, and they were able to, like, change course and contribute towards the society also in a very quick and fast way. So going forward, I would also look at like how the industry is changing, and I will come back to touching upon why data and how data is being used to address all of these. If you really look at it, earlier, if I had to buy a car, I would go to the showroom, I would have a look at the car, and I would do a test drive, and then I would make choices, and then I would either book the car or look at other options. But if you really look at it at this point in time, both Maruti and Toyota in India, I'm talking about, they have started selling cars online. So if you go to their website, you can actually book a car or buy a car online without even going into the showroom. And how is this possible? There is a lot of systems behind it, and data is a key driver in terms of how these are being adopted. So let's move on. So does it mean, one of the questions which people always ask me when I'm talking to my clients and some of the industry organization is, does it mean, is it that people who have data are the only ones who can survive or adapt to these changes? And how much of data should I have? And what sorts of data should I have? If I don't have data, will I be left behind? So the answer to these questions are very simple. There is no standard answer to it. So if you ask me, survival of the fittest or survival of the fittest, is that the answer to it? It's a yes and it's a no. There has to be a journey where the industry starts adopting the data-driven decisions and they start capturing the data. There is nothing like good data, bad data, enough data, more than enough data. But how do you leverage that data? How do you curate that data? How the industries actually take insights and make decisions on top of that data is something what really makes them successful. So let's again move on. This is another quote from Charles Darwin, is it the strongest of the species that survive or the most intelligent? Like I said, it's not. People who are most responsive to the change and who can adapt to the environmental changes are the ones who are going to survive. And this is no different for any organization, for any other industry. Now let's go into why and how. Why is data being used and how the data is being used by the industries, and how are they leveraging the power of data to be ahead of the curve. That's the crux of today's conversation, the applications of data and analytics across the industry. I'm going to touch upon majorly retail. I can talk about a lot of examples, and I'll also try to touch upon a couple of more other industries in terms of some of the use cases, how industries are using data and how they are able to make an impact. Right. So let's start with retail as a first example. So I just want to tell a story here, right? If we go back a few years, we all know Kirani stores, right? The mom and pop stores is what they call it, which is closer to every one of our home. And probably these are the ones who also really helped us during the COVID times when a lot of logistic issues were there in the beginning. If you really look at the store next to your house, when you walk in, the person knows you by face. He pretty much knows what are your choices, what you typically buy for a month. And then there is a personalized connect. He has a conversation, not just about what you're going to buy, but he probably also has a social conversation with you in terms of asking your health, just talking, chit-chatting around, and that gives you a personal connect, right? With these kind of stores actually moving less and less, and lot of e-commerce coming in, and a lot of technology, digital being spurred up, and all of these changes came in, that physical personal touch, what was there when I walked into a store versus when I am actually purchasing things online, that started diluting, right? So that is one key area where data starts playing a role, right? And if I am shopping on Amazon or Flipkart on any other website, how does that brand, like say Amazon, give me that personalized touch, what my Kirani store's person would have given me? That is a competitive arena at this point in time for everyone to actually work towards it. And that is the place where industries are using data to really know. If you really look at Kirani stores, right, that person would have had managed inventory. Maybe he would have used a book and a pen to really order or items for his store when they're going out of stock. He would have known you by face, and then he would have known your choices. Maybe he wouldn't have documented, but it would have been documented in his brain, and he knew what are your choices. And he would know where you live, what you do, and what you like, what you dislike, and at what point in time you would need a certain product and all of that. And he would also send a boy to your house who can deliver this the items to your doorstep. So all of these used to happen. With the digital spur, how can you maintain that at scale for distinct distributed people is where data is playing a role, especially in the retail industry. And this is pretty much true for any other industry as well. So with that story as a background, let's actually look at what does it mean in terms of how data is being applied in the industry. So if you really look at it, the point A to B is what the earlier journey was. You know, I used to go to the Kirani store from my house and I used to make the purchase and come back. But with the digital spur, that is not the case now. As a customer, I look at options, I Google, I look at reviews, I ask few people, and there are 10 things which I do even before I go and purchase an item, right? So that journey has become complex, and the products or the industries or the marketeers basically need to understand where I as a customer am looking out for a product. For example, if I'm trying to buy a car, then I would go to some websites, I would do reviews, I would look at YouTube, I would look at the comments and all of that before even I go to their website, or I just go to their website and before even I test drive, I do all of this research. So as a car brand, they need to understand which websites I'm going, what I'm looking for, and how can they really help me provide that information and experience so that I can actually make my decision and a positive decisions toward a particular brand. So the interaction touch points have become larger, and every touch point there is data which is being generated, and the industry organizations are capturing this data and stitching this data together to start making sense of what are the preferences of a customer, what are the choices of the customer, what are his inclinations, his or her likes, dislikes, and all of that to establish that connection and also the relationship even before the actual physical interaction happens. So having said that, what are we trying to do here is we are trying to merge two distinct worlds here. One is basically a digital world, the other one is a physical world, right? And for every industry or every brand, they have to make sure they create the right experiences in both digital and as well as in the physical world. And that is the major challenge, and that's where the data is bridging the gap. So now we call this world or more of a phygital world, which is physical plus digital. So before getting into the details of retail, I just wanted to showcase this particular slide, right? In any retail at a very, very broad level, there are these components which go into it, right? There is channels. When we are talking about channels, we see ads even for a simple thing like a shampoo or a soap. We see ads in the TV, we hear ads in the radio, we see ads in our mobiles, and web channels and all of these, right? And there is an experience which is created. To create an ad, there has to be a content, there has to be a story, and it has to be really stitched together well, and then it has to be presented in a particular channel, be it TV or radio, whatever it is. and that content has to go in or go out at a certain point in time, right? And that is where the first phase of creating awareness of a new product launch, or creating the curiosity for the customer of a certain product being there, starts. And then the next stage is basically the interaction stage, where the commerce capabilities comes in case if I have to go to a website, I will order, then there is a cart, I add to the cart, and then I order it, then the rest of the things follow place, right? In the sense, behind the scenes, there is basically inventory management happening, order management happening, making sure the fulfillment is up there, the logistics are taken care, and if the order is not coming on time, or tracking the order is happening, and there is a constant notification which is coming to the customer saying your order will be delivered on a such and such a day, such and such a time, etc., etc. And there is also on the other side marketing happening. There is a lot of ads coming in and going out, so that people are aware of this product. And if you really go to any of your websites, if you have done e-commerce or transactions online, there is a recommendation, and people who brought this also looked at XYZ, right? So there is a personalization, there is a recommendation which is happening. All of this is based on the data, what the brands have captured. If I have searched for XYZ product, when I go back to that website, it would have known that I searched this product last time when I came in. So there is a recommendation which comes on saying like, hey, you looked for this product. People who looked at this product also saw ABC other products. So are you interested? Or there is a promotional offer coming saying, you looked at this product, now this product is available 15% cheaper. So do you want to buy that right now? So how these things are happening is based on the previous history, transactions, the data, what the person has really looked at within the website or outside the website, and making sure they're all coming together and making sense out of it. So here, there are a lot of engineering aspects running behind, like bringing the data together, stitching that data, cleaning up that data, and making sure that you are storing the data for future use by aggregation. And on top of this data, there is a lot of analytics which is being run. For example, machine learning algorithms or simple reports. For example, when you look at how did industry perform last quarter, it's a simple report of their profit and loss statement, and that is what you see in terms of stock exchanges reporting their earnings. And the detailed reports in terms of customer, okay, XYZ customer, he came to the website on X and Y date, he looked at ABC products, he purchased XYZ, and here are probably his choices. So when you will log in next time, all of these are considered together, and then again, there are more insights which are being generated. So behind the scenes, there is a lot of machine learning algorithms which go in, and there is a lot of analytics which go in behind the scenes. But ultimately, from a user standpoint, he or she gets a personalized recommendation, or he or she gets a choice of different products, and that experience what they get through the brand. So whatever I was just talking about, this is the current complex journey which a customer goes through before he or she purchases a particular product or experiences a product, right? There is an awareness phase, what I was talking about from a media standpoint, and there is a consideration. Now that I know this product, should I buy this? Should I not buy this? And how do I look at it? So when I go to different review websites, there is a lot of data which is coming there. There are 3 stars, 4 stars review ratings which are out there. So I look at all of that, and then I go to the website, or I go to a shop and then make a booking and make a purchase. After the purchase, there is a after sales service, which is an experience again created. If the experience is good, I become an advocate for the product. If the experience is bad, then I go again to a review site and say this product is not good. This organization did not serve me well, which is going to influence the next customer, even though the customer is still not an active purchaser, right? And if I am so well accustomed to the brand, I know they are going to treat me well, and I have had great experiences in the past, then I become a loyal customer to that particular brand, and I make frequent purchases or have frequent interactions with them. So that's where loyalty comes in. So how does data play in all of these areas? So let me just touch upon a few of them as an example, and then I have some statistics also how this data has really helped some of the organizations in terms of their businesses. So what you see here are pretty much touch points, right? I'll just go one by one, right? The first one on the top, I'll just go a cyclic way, is basically a store. If I'm getting into a store, maybe a big bazaar, maybe a mall, maybe a small shop, when I go into a store, I actually make a purchase, I go around the store, I do a lot of things. And if you really look at it, if you envision a particular mall or a particular grocery store, there is a certain way they have placed all these products. And typically when you are actually billing, when you have taken all the all the products in your cart, and when you're about to bill, you can predominantly see some chocolates very next to the billing counter. And there is a reason why they do it, right? And that is also based on the data, right? We call the placement, how the products are placed within a particular area or within a shop, as planograms. I'll talk about a little bit on the planograms in the next couple of slides. But how do you position a particular product? If you position a product in a particular place, the sales are going to get impacted either positively or negatively. So all of those are dependent on how the store layout is also built. And then we talk about the next one. You see a bag there. It's about the shopping cart. If I don't have a great experience, I may be selecting the product, but I don't buy the product. I just put it back. So why does that happen? There is a set of data analytics which happens, and so we call that as an abandoned cart. And how do you make sure the customer comes back and really purchases that? Or maybe he has abandoned the cart because there was a network issue and he or she was not able to make the payment. So how do you really, avoid those things happening is again based on data. So there is a maintenance, adaptive part, the reactive and a proactive part of it from a data standpoint. So data gives us information about, was there a load in the network which really did not help the customer make the journey completion, or how did this really journey did not complete? What were the issues and how we can sort this out? The next one is a point of sale systems. These are pretty much the kiosks where you get your things built. And point of sale system itself is a very, very complex system in terms of there is a lot of data involved in there. Whatever goes into the point of sale systems is basically all the transactional data. It has a customer's spend value. It has what all the items the customer has brought, which helps in demand forecasting, in the sense if there are like 100 instances of a particular product, if there are multiple customers who come and buy 50 of them, then you have to replenish that 50, and that information is directly influenced from the point of sale based on the sale. And the credit card information, the amount of transaction, what the customer has done, how frequent the customer is coming and making those transactions, all of that is captured in the point of sale system. And in few places, point of sale systems is also now contactless because of the COVID. And how are they adopting this in terms of fraud management, so that people don't misuse the networks, people don't misuse the credit cards, and there is no hacking and all of that. So that also is part of how the data governance and security and privacy policies are adopted in the organizations. The next one is inventory. This is where I was calling, assortment and fulfillment and demand forecasting is what we call it in different stages. If I am a retail store, I need to make sure that I have enough capacity of the products. I should not be running out of the product. If a customer comes and asks for a certain product, it should not be like, okay, hey, I don't have this product, so come tomorrow. That is not a great experience for the customer. So how do I make sure there is a just-in-time fulfillment or enough replenishment happening on a regular basis? All of that is part of inventory management. Then there is promotions and discounts. Data also helps. If you have noticed, let me give an example here. Typically in January, there is a lot of discounts on clothing. And same happens somewhere around July, August timeframe. if you have noticed that it is a seasonal change, and you have to make sure that current stock, whatever basically the people, the shops which houses all these clothing, they need to make space for the new trend which is coming in. So they offer a lot of these discounts, and some of these promotional offers are seasonal. Some of these promotional offers are based on clearance. Some of these promotional offers are based on festivities. So, but ultimately what they are trying to do is they are trying to hold certain set of customers very, very loyal to them. And in the meantime, also you will see like in the ad, you will see like with the shampoo you will get a soap free, right? Or with XYZ you get another product free. Why is that happening? Either the product is not selling, or there is excess of that product, or they just want to make sure that those two bundles, the data shows that these two bundles sell well. So they want to make sure they bundle it together so that both the sales happen at one point in time, right? So that's how data really helps in terms of product promotions, discounts, and promotional activity basically. The next one is kiosk. So here is an interesting one, right? When a person has to do a contactless checkout, which we don't see much in India, but this is very, very prevalent in other countries, is I just go check out whatever the products I have put in my basket. I just show it to the barcode scanner, and I make a payment with my credit card and I walk out, right? So that is self-service checkout, which is always there in kiosk. That is one of the things which kiosks help with. And I can even search if a particular product is there and which aisle, which position, where should I go looking for. I need not walk around the entire store. I just need to go search there, and it says it is in the 4th aisle, 5th shelf. So I just need to go there, pick it up, and come back. So there is an efficiency which is built in, and this information is real time provided on the kiosk, because the kiosk is in the store, and there is information from the POS system about the sale which is happening. So out of 50 products, there are 30 products which is already gone, and there is only 20 of them remaining. The kiosk gets this information on a regular basis, and the data is fed to it. And that's how the customers can actually leverage that. On the next row, which you see is ads. Ads, like I said, ads is again a different, interesting area. Because when we look at ads, we just consume the message, we just look at the product. But what goes behind the ads is both, art and a science to it. Art is basically the messaging, the creativity which is out there, and the science is, if I have to put in an ad, normally I look for a prime time slot when everybody is watching the TV, maybe like 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock, whatever the best serials are. If I have to put my ad in that slot, then it costs me more, right? But that also means that I'm taking attention, or I'm gathering attention of more number of people. So how do I really look at it on a digital standpoint, right? If it is TV, there are prime time slots, but in digital, we never know when that prime time is, because everybody is browsing all the time and most of the time. So how do you really pick a particular slot? And there are so many websites. Where do I position my ad? Should I put it on Google? Should I put it on Facebook? Should I put it on somewhere else? Where should my ad be positioned? And I have to bid for these slots. We call this programmatic in the industrial language. And all of these are driven by data. I can configure what slot I would need. I can configure what is my highest bidding amount, and how many slots I need, and what would be pretty much my content load during that period. When I configure all of this, there is an algorithm which runs in based on the data which is provided. And if I get a slot, it is like trading on the stock exchange, right? If I need a particular stock at a certain price, just trigger it at that price, and then debit the amount from my account. Similarly, it happens on the programmatic network as well. So there is a lot of data parameters which goes in terms of bidding for this, and how that really it is considered, and then how that slots are secured. That is one part of it. The second part is when I put in a particular ad in a certain channel, how do I really figure out that did that ad perform well? So the attribution, did the ad on the TV perform well, or did the ad on the Google perform well? What is driving my sales? So that's called channel attribution. So those things are also driven by data in terms of how many people came, how many people looked at the ad. That's where the TRP also is actually data driven, right? In terms of how many people are looking at your channel at a certain point in time. Similarly, how many people clicked at your ad when I'm putting marketing channels or communication through emails, how many people actually clicked at the email and came to my website, and did that convert to a sale or did that not convert to a sale? All of those are again completely driven by data. Right? There is a lot of complex algorithms which are running behind, and there are simple algorithms also in few places which are running behind the scenes. The next one is pick up and drop. Here, the cart which you see, the van, it's not only about in India. Typically, what happens is now Amazons and Flipkarts are actually delivering some of the products. In other countries, there are multiple options. Amazon also gives this option like pickup. You can actually not let the guy come to your house, maybe because I am very scared about COVID. I don't want anybody coming to my place. I would want to go pick it up in a certain place, right? The pickup is also, there are multiple ways of pickup. I can go to the store and I can pick up, and there is another called a curb pickup. In the sense, I need not get into the store. They will actually come and put the items out on the footpath. They call this the curb pickup. I just pick up from the footpath and put it into my car, and then I come back. So there is a curbside pickup. I can even schedule a certain point in time. I'm going to come and pick up my items at 5 p.m. tomorrow in XYZ place. So that is also pickup. All of these scheduling, the calendars, the slots, the amount of traffic queuing, all of this is also managed by data. And we have applications to do this for certain brands, and that is completely driven by data again. The next one is basically, how do you do fraud prevention? How do you do governance for all of this so that there is no misuse and there is no shoplifting happening, things like that. So that is again based on data. You have cameras where you can look at who is going where, and what you can actually monitor those moments in case if somebody is very suspicious. So those image processing also happens through data, and then there are real-time notifications which come in for the store manager to act upon it. The next one is returns. Returns is very, very naive in India. Amazon and Flipkarts have started it, but typically this is very, very prevalent in other countries. Whenever a product is bought, if people don't like it in 15 days, they typically return. And returns is actually a major liability for retailers as well, because they will have to sell it as a refurbished item. So they would want to minimize returns as much as possible. How can I do that? For example, I think Jabong was giving you an option. If I have to purchase a certain pair of shoes, if my size of my shoe is like say 8 or a 9, I don't know if a certain brand 8 size would fit me or a 9 size would fit me. So when you order a size 8, they would ship you 7 and also 9, so that you try it right there, so that you don't return it back and then again order something. So that's an additional liability, addition expense. Sorry, was there a question? Okay, so that is basically on the returns. And the next one is basically loyalty. I spoke about loyalty a little bit. And the last one is payments. Now we have seen an uplift in digital payments. There is, humongous options, be it GPay, PhonePe, Paytm, BHIM app, UPI, and all of that. And there is contactless payments, there is credit card payments, debit card payments, lot of these options. So how is that tracked? Because the payment has to go through and there has to be a trigger again from the retail standpoint that they have received the payment and the products are actually dispatched. So all of this, the whole ecosystem, if you really look at it, the backbone is basically data. And obviously the front end customer is not looking at it. From a customer standpoint, it is experience and the product itself. But behind the scenes, there is data stitching happening in every stage. And that is what creating the value from both customer standpoint as well as value creation from a brand perspective. So let me just go into a few examples of how data has helped in some of the organizations, right? Amazon, we all know Amazon, right? Recommendation engine. Let's talk a little bit about recommendation engine. Like I said, recommendation is provided based on the browser history, browsing history, and purchase history and the transaction history made by a customer, right? Based on this, what Amazon does is it throws up recommendation saying like, hey, you brought this with this, here is another product which would probably help you, right? Or you brought this product, people who brought this product also brought ABC, another product, right? So those are recommendation engines, and that is also very personalized. What Amazon initially used was out of the box algorithms, but that did not help them at all. So they really checked out all the available off-the-shelf algorithms, and they developed in-house recommendation engine all by their own. So in 2015 itself, their recommendation engine gave them close to $107 million revenue, just recommendation, not the direct product sales, but only recommendation itself. By only recommendation, they were able to generate close to $107 million. Even today, 35% of Amazon's revenue is generated by the recommendation engine. So if you really look at it, the recommendation engine, the models behind this engine and the data they are using has to be so strong to really look at close to 35% of their revenue. So this is one such example where data is being leveraged as part of the organization. Let's look at the other one. I was talking about planograms, right? So what you see on the blue left side of your screen is actual IKEA planogram. If you go to IKEA stores across the world, their planograms or the way they have actually structured their stores will be very, very, very similar. And there is a reason again why they do that, right? They have used the movement data. They have used the data of where people actually stop more. How do they actually pass through within their stores? So based on all of this information, they have come up with a positioning or planogram, and that is how they have developed their store positioning systems. And that is one of the statistics what you see on the screen is they keep changing this. It's not one time, in the sense if I do it now, it remains there for the next 5 years. No, they keep changing it based on the data, real-time data they keep getting, because over the 5 years, over the couple of years, the behavioral pattern of customers also change. There is a lot more new products coming in, and the choices of the customers change. So the store layouts also keeps changing. So that's how it happens. The statistic says if they don't do a reset of the store layout once in a while, there is a lost sales of like close to $10 to $15 billion, right? This is a huge number, right? If you really look at it. So that's how people keep updating themselves, evolving the store layouts based on the customer preferences, choices, how people move in. And all of this data is captured through your cameras, through beacons. Beacons are the laser infrared devices which are stationed within the store, which also helps in terms of figuring out how people are moving inside the store, where they are stopping more, where they are looking at things, where they don't even stop, they are not even interested. All of those information is also, it's also IoT if you really look at it, right? The Internet of Things, where the data is captured and put it into the system where the analysis is done. On the right side bottom, you will also see the positioning of these products. And you would have noticed this when you go into a shopping mall or large stores. There is a certain way they have positioned. Some of the things like biscuits and all of these, typically they will not be at the top of the shelf. They will be somewhere in the bottom to the middle. The reason they do that is kids should be also able to pick it up. But if you see some of the other things which are not very relevant to the kids are typically at the top of the shelf. And it is also designed based on demographics. It is also designed based on in India, what is the average height for a male versus a female, versus in US, what is an average height for a male versus a female, versus what is the average height in UK for a male versus a female. So all these considerations are also taken into designing these planograms. And the planogram is not just for any retail store. If you really look at it, even pharmacies have a certain way of designing it themselves. Each pharmacist has a certain way how he or she places those items so that they can go just pick it up without really searching for things. So there is a lot of data. There is a lot of science behind this as well. And one of the things they also look at, or the data provides us, is how can they minimize the journey? In the sense, the customer should not be like going back and forth to find a certain item or a product, right? So how can I, as a brand, as an industry, make sure that the customer traverses the least possible path to get all his or her items and then go to the checkout for payment? So this information is also based on the data which is being provided. And there is a lot of historical data. There is current data which is processed. And that is what is will help in designing these structures and layouts. Before going into a next industry, or I just want to make sure that I give like at least 15-20 minutes for questions. So one of the key things which we all see is personalization, right? Let me just start with an example here. People who know Louis Vuitton, it's a LVMH brand. I had this in my earlier slide. They have a brand called Sephora, which is mainly beauty products, right? And they pretty much target very, very specific customers based on the history of purchase, based on the demographics, based on the income level, and all of it, right? So when they were doing regular campaigns, in the sense just ads for everybody, their revenue was not moving. In the sense, it was, they were spending a lot of money in marketing campaigns, but it did not really help them improve their sales. So what they started doing is they started taking their data, in the sense the customers who have already shopped with them, they took their data and they looked at who are those guys who have been continuously shopping with us, not just one-off scenarios. They also took second party and third party data wherever possible from their partners. And they stitched all of this data together to understand their behaviors, to understand their choices. And based on that, they did a very, very, very personalized campaign. For example, for me, if I am very conscious on, and I have a very sensitive skin, I got an email with products which is suitable for sensitive skin. And there is another person who has probably oily skin, then that person got the email with the product recommendations with is very, very suitable for the oily skin. So that is a level of personalization they went into. And based on all the data, what they were able to stitch together, they did this exercise and they ran the campaigns. With that, they were able to see 6x returns. In the sense, if they were doing like $100,000, they were able to do $600,000. So that is the kind of returns which came in. And personalization is now, I would say, a table stake for not only retailers, but every other industry. If I'm going into a bank, I want the bank to personalize my experience and the way they treat me. I don't want to put money in, say, FD versus stocks. They should know my choices because I've been banking with them. So they need to customize and personalize that product for me. That is what is my expectations. The customer expectations are far, far higher. So personalization is, I would say, a fundamental foundation stone in any data-driven organization or industry. And this is something which everybody is adopting. It is not only true for B2C, in the sense business to customers, but it is also true for business to business, right? So how do they personalize maybe their payment structures, maybe their logistic structures? So all of this is something now, personalization and recommendation has pretty much become a stable stake in every industry. And one of the key first use cases every industry will embark on is mainly personalization and recommendation systems. So a quick statistics which you can see is like, if there is personalization, it influences the behavior. And when it influences the behavior of a customer, obviously there is more revenue to the brand. And when there is definitely more revenue to the brand, the customers also feel valued, and they would engage with the brand better. So there is a win-win situation on both the ends. That's how personalization also helps. Let me pause here for a moment, because this kind of gives a segue into my next set of, I have 2 or 3 more industries which I can broadly talk about. Do you think it would make sense to just go through those slides, or should we open up? We have another 30 minutes, I believe. So maybe I can just open it up for questions and make it more interactive.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we can go up to 1 o'clock at 10 minutes.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll just quickly skim through the next couple of slides, and then we can open up for any questions. I've just put in, I can talk about each of these slides at length for each of the industries. But due to the time, I just made sure that I at least bring in the key aspects of it. Maybe interested, maybe we can do future sessions or something like that, if we have to go deep into these areas. So if we look at energy and utilities, when I'm talking about energy and utilities, it is not just about electricity. It's about also gas. There is fuel pipelines which are being run from country to country, under the sea and all of this, right? There needs to be a lot of maintenance. There needs to be a lot of monitoring, and all of that need to happen. So ultimately what we are talking about is a demand and supply here. So the generation, the distribution and consumption, all of that, again, data plays a major role, especially in this energy and utilities industry. IoT is one of the key players, because every component is pretty much now operated through the internet remotely, and maintenance, predictive maintenance, the capacity planning, the demand and supply planning, all of those are done much in advance, because if a gas pipeline is rusting, I can't wait till it bursts. So there is a predictive maintenance algorithm which goes in, and the data provides this. For example, if a certain pipeline, if I'm using a certain inch pipeline, which is a certain thickness, then that can hold the gas for a certain duration of time. So there are triggers, there are reminders, there are fault mechanism systems which keep reminding about this. And there is a constant monitoring system also, which keeps flagging. If something goes wrong, there is a red alert which comes in. It's like a heat map. And there are huge screens in these industries where they keep monitoring all of this. And anything goes wrong, it pretty much like, shouts out an alarm where they can do it. And similarly for predictive maintenance, if they have to do a maintenance, how they can divert a few things without impacting. For example, if there is a electricity maintenance happening in a certain grid, we get intimation before a day or two in the newspaper saying, hey, this particular locality will be out of power for XYZ time. And those things are all now data driven, in the sense, when should I do my maintenance, when should I do my upgrading of the systems and things like that. So that is one other place where this is used. And also revenue management system for billing, the data is used. How much how much of power would be needed for in summers versus in winters. All of those prediction is also driven by how much of power consumption happens locally, domestically, industrially, and that planning is also done based on the predictive analysis. Similarly, infrastructure planning and risk mitigation, all of those are completely data driven at this point in time, and everywhere data is playing a major role in energy and utility industries too. I'll just move on to the media and communication. Nothing more to say here. We have been seeing corona fear being dumped on us from the media in the last couple of months, but there is a lot of again work goes behind even to get there. Is how do you target your customer? I was talking about like whom do I need to target. So let me take an example here, an interesting one. Delta Airlines, they did a very interesting campaign a few years ago. What they did was, typically everybody, uses the standard billboards in a prime location and standard, channels like TV, radio, and all of that. But they wanted to minimize the cost. So what they did is they looked at their customers and the areas where they stay, and like really pick those spots where there is more people who are going to go, but it is not a prime spot, right? It is probably not a Brigade Road in Bangalore, but it is probably somewhere, much like a Jainagar 4th block or Chamrajpet, Gandhi Bazaar sort of a thing, where people go often. So they picked up those spots where the cost for displaying the media is much less, but the attention is a lot more. So that's how they did the targeting, and they were able to actually increase their revenue, in the sense they were able to increase their footprint to the compared to their competitor airlines. So this is again targeting and promotions. There is a lot of data which they used. They used the demographic data. They used the location data and all of that to actually get this thing done. And again, content creation. What content would appeal to a certain set of audience? Maybe for an audience between 40 to 60, there is a different choice of content. But for an audience of 20 to 30, there is a different choice of content. So you need to address both these choices and both these audiences. So how do you really make sure the content is right? So that is again driven by data. Dynamic content. This is a very interesting one. I don't think anybody in the industry has solved this yet, but there is a lot of work going on in this one. When I say dynamic content, what does this mean is, assume there are like multiple snippets of videos, right? Based on who is coming into my website at a certain point in time, I just take a snapshot of that video and then real time send it to that person who is interested in that video, right? If there is a 1 minute video, I just send only 20 seconds of that 1 minute video to a certain person who is interested in only those 20 seconds. So there is a lot of data, machine learning, algorithm, and all of that which is happening at this point in time in terms of really looking at what is that 20-second content and how can I really pick that 20-second content and make it more dynamic. So that is again driven by data, and AI-driven data is AI-driven media is what we call it. And I was talking about the media performance, the channel attribution, and all of that comes into marketing, media optimization, channel attribution, channel optimization, how a particular campaign is performing, how an ad is performing in TV versus radio. Should I change it? Should I change the timing? Should I change the content? Should I just pull off the ad, or should I run it for some more time if the response is good? So all of this again comes from a real-time basis in many places where the data reports and information and insights keep coming in. Based on that, data-driven decisions are made. Insurance, pretty much a lot of us are already aware of it. There is a lot of risk mitigation, risk assessment happens through insurance. With the variables coming in, this has started in few countries. I think it is not yet started in India. People who wear smartwatches and pedometers and all of that, insurance really, if you are able to provide that information to them based on your lifestyle, they will be able to give you some discounts. So this has started in few places in US and Europe, they also fix a device for your car. It's typically called autotronics, right? Based on the driving pattern, the risk is assessed for a certain driver. If I'm a very risky driver, I'm always driving fast and braking hard, then they take this information, and when I go to renew my insurance, probably I have to pay an extra premium because of my driving pattern. But if there is another person who is very safe driver, who never crosses 60 whatever mark within those limits, then that person would probably get a discount in the insurance. So this is also helping people become more safer and become more responsible. So that is also helping. And when we talk about life stage, this is another interesting one, right? When a school kid graduates, he or she starts their actual professional journey. At that point in time, their needs are different in insurance. And when they get into family, their needs are different. When they have kids, the needs are different. And when they get into retirement, again, their needs are different. How can I, as an insurance company, preempt this and then give them the right products at the right point in time so that they can support them in their whole journey of life, making sure they are secure, they are supported, both from a health, insurance, and all of that standpoint. So that's the life stage thing, which is again implemented. Prudential implements this. FWD in Singapore has implemented it, and I think AIA also has implemented these things. So you can pretty much see some of the promotional calls coming from these companies are also due to the fact that they have used data analytics to figure out who are the right people to target. And obviously, the final one is basically, how do they make sure that they prevent fraud and fake claims? So that is again something which data is helping people. Yeah, I think I have two more. Banking, very similar to insurance. Here, one of the other things are also like products. When we talk about products, like FD is an instrument, right? Similarly, RD is an instrument. Now, if you see, there are a lot of instruments like this which the banks are also floating. Some of it is risk averse, some of it is risky. So all these products are also defined and designed based on the data and the kind of segmentation profile for the customers. So here, what they do is they take the entire customer segment and they divide it into subsegments, like maybe 10 to 20 years, 20 to 40 years, 40 to 60 years, and age is one sample. It may be due to it may be also based on age plus location plus salary criteria, and there are more pluses you can keep adding on to it. Based on that, they look at risk profiling of the customers, and accordingly they design the products for them, and then they offer those products. And the stock market, typically the finance side, the trading, sentiment analysis, and market analysis and monitoring, all of that, you have seen the recent soya bean ruchi thing. The CB has already ordered some probes. So why did that stock actually go from X to a Y position? What were those factors? If there was something which was alarming they are seeing, how do they trigger this? All of those are based on some of the data which is being provided. And again, risk like credit risk, anti-money laundering. So there have been a lot of policies which the governments also have used based on the data and the examples they have seen. So pretty much data is playing a role in every other place here. When I'm talking about government, one of the other example is European government is actually using sentiment analysis to hear their citizens, and based on that, they are defining some of the policies, for example, like a climate change. policy. Things like that, they are actually using these data on a real-time basis to get feedback from the citizens of their country. I think this is the final one I have in terms of the industries. Transport and logistics, again, a vast area. I'll just give you one example where one of the postal service, what they are doing is they have a lot of leads, in the sense they have to ship the post, the cargo, and all of that from one place to another, right? And they have these vehicles which take this load, and then they deliver it from a source to a destination. These vehicles maintenance has to be done proactively. That is one. Second, in terms of since they are pretty much on the road all the time, they have implemented a use case or a scenario where they can really change the tires of the vehicle before it is due. So they have looked at, they have implemented a solution in terms of how many kilometers each of those tires in a particular vehicle has run. And then based on that, there is a trigger which comes in and they change the tires. Similarly, for servicing, there is a trigger which comes in for a particular vehicle that is actually serviced. And there has been an instance where I think they have not been facing any breakdown in past 2 to 3 years after they implemented this. So that's how they are adopting data in terms of to leverage the predictive maintenance and also to reduce the cost. RFID, the latest one is you can actually put in an RFID for your luggage if you're traveling from one place to another, so that you know where your baggage is, so that you don't get your bag lost. So that's again is based on the data. And similarly, airlines are using similar mechanisms to reduce baggage losses, because if there is a baggage loss, they incur liability to pay to the customer. So those things are again looked at. Similarly, shipping. One of the recent one is due to the COVID, the petroleum prices fell, but the production was still on. And what happened is all the ships which stored this pretty much came into the Gulf area, and there was no more storage space, which also meant that the oil prices fell further. So how do they manage this? How do they, if you had seen the recent Dubai coast, there were like, and even Singapore, there were so many cargo ships out there in the ocean with full of oil, and they were not able to offload because of the scenario, because of the pandemic, and the storage space was actually bleak in terms of it was all full. So how are these pretty much managed, barring the pandemic scenario, but how are these pretty much managed is also based on data and analytics. Okay, so those are some of the scenarios actually which I just wanted to share across with everyone. So one of the questions is, since we are all technical guys and we are talking about how the industry is really leveraging it, but what does it mean from behind the scenes is something which I just wanted to share. A data platform, how does it look like, right? This would be something very, very interesting, especially for the technology savvy folks. Fundamentally, any data platform would look very, very similar to what you see on the screen, right? All the things, each and every industry is adapting or implementing from a use case standpoint. Behind the scenes, there is one engine or the heart, which is the data platform, and it looks very, very similar. There may be small customization here and there based on the organization, landscape, and environment, but there is some data which is coming in, which gets stored in a certain place, and then the data gets processed, and then it is ready for consumption. So when you see these storage, aggregation, consumption, and activation layers, these are how the data actually flows. The one which you see on the top is basically the monitoring part of it, to make sure the data is right, to make sure the data is not breaking, and you are able to really control the flow of this on a real-time basis. So there is a lot of whistles, bells, which is put together to make sure this entire flow works properly and in an automated fashion. So that's where integration, automation, and monitoring comes into picture. The box on the bottom, the AI ML applications, is where these applications actually tap into the data and they start building algorithms and they implement it and then apply it on scale. In the sense, initially it may be like 100 GB, and then it may be 1 petabyte, and then more and more. So on an overall note, behind the scenes, the data platform typically looks something like this, and that is what helps every industry keep moving from a data-driven organization, and how they can leverage really the data in their industry for their specific use case problems. That's pretty much I had. So I think we can open up for any questions.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your useful and informative thoughts about applications of data analytics in industry.
Hello.
Now I request.
Wait, Sweta. Wait.
The questions.
Sweta, wait.
Okay.
I will heartily welcome to our Honorable Vice Chancellor, Dr. Venugopal K. sir, for this webinar.
Namaskara, Ellar.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. Stop sharing, sir.
Yeah, Pradyumna, can you stop sharing? Pradyumna? Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon,
sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah,
Good afternoon, sir.
good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
MTech students?
Any queries? Hello, Pradyumna.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah, I'm able to hear. Am I audible?
questions from the participants?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Dr. Champa. Can I go ahead? Question?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam.
Yes, please.
Yeah, this is about the personalization and recommendation you told. Is it not like personalization? Is it not like invading into somebody's, privacy and things like that? And if that is the case, is there any law or a rule against how long you can dig into somebody's, privacy?
Yeah, it's a great question. This is something which is debated and also discussed across every country, right? For example, in US they have a HIPAA law, and in Europe they have a GDPR law, and India also is creating something similar, right? What does this mean? Definitely, it is potentially when we debate about this, it's like an ethical debate, right? So, but each of these law, what it says is users can, in the sense, as customer, I can offer my data to the particular brand for them to leverage it, right? And it will all be masked. They're not supposed to be sharing it with anybody in terms of like the name and all of that. Maybe they will share something like, hey, there is a person with 30 to 40 years of experience and his preferences are something who lives in Bangalore, for example, right? There will be no PII information which would be shared. But having said that, tomorrow, if I choose not to be part of it, then there has to be a mechanism where I choose not to be part of it. If you are the brand, there needs to be a mechanism where you can delete all of my instances of data that you have stored. Okay, so that is again implemented and taken care by the platforms, and this is a rule especially in the Europe with the GDPR and similar things in the US. There are few other countries which are still embarking on it. Like for example, in India, we do not have such a great clarity. How does this happen? Similarly, but majorly, if you really look at it, everybody is just following the GDPR principles. in principle saying you cannot invade over a privacy policy, for sure, yes. And there should be a mechanism. If I have chosen to provide my data, I should also be given a choice that I will be off of it whenever I need it.
Thank you.
Sir, I have a question. I am from Commerce Department. I'm Dr. Nirmala. So you have been talking about this analytics and all these things. Now, as commerce graduates, what are their opportunities in this field, and what we can include in our academic courses so that they can we can mold them to the market requirements.
Again, an interesting one. I'll take this in 3 folds.
Okay.
Because it's not a very straightforward answer, right? So one is basically the technical aspect of it. Okay. And the other one is the business aspect of it. And the third one is the maintainability aspect of it. Okay. So let me just answer all the. When I'm talking about the technical aspects, it is basically building the platform and having those architectural principles, what I need to bring in, what are the tools and technologies. So those are very, very core technical aspects, right? Anybody who is technically sound with fundamentals of Java, Scala, any cloud technology, microservices, that is the foundation for all of this, okay? And from the business aspect or the consulting aspect of it is, for example, you said you're from commerce, right? When we are talking about some of the fundamental commerce principles, I, as a technologist, for example, may not know it. Like a statistical modeling, for example. I may know how to build if you tell me, hey, this is the parameters which needs to go in, correct? So the business aspect of it or the domain aspect of it comes from a domain standpoint, right? The maintainability is basically the merging of these two. And that is the challenge in the industry at this point in time. For example, the mathematicians or statisticians, if they know a bit of technology, then it becomes easy. The same vice versa, right? The technologists, if they know a little bit of statistics and mathematics and all of that, that becomes a little more easy for them. Otherwise, you have to keep marrying this together. And then it has to go, hand in hand. And this is where the on-ground training or on-the-job training starts, making sense for people.
So conceptual background is essential for commerce graduates.
Yes.
So interpretation will take place from the commerce graduation, and technical part will be taken care by the technical people, like building of algorithms and all that.
Correct. But I have a few people in my team who come from statistical background who are also experienced in programming.
Okay.
So I have both ways. I have a technical guy who have also learned a little bit of statistics and all of it. That's the reason I said the third angle is bringing these two things together. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Dr. Triveni. Usually in most of the websites, they'll ask us to store the debit card details or credit card details. How secure? Because some of the dollar transaction, it will not give OTP also. Directly, it will be deducted. So what do you suggest? Whether we have to store these details or we should not?
It's a personal choice, I would say. But if you ask me, if you feel that it is not secure, I would recommend not to store it.
It is based on trust only?
Yes, typically when I say trust, everybody has a guideline. If you go to a website, you will see an indication of a lock and key and verified by some of the key partners, right? So these are authorized partners who really audit them in terms of how their gateway is. When we implement systems, typically what we do is we do performance testing, we do security testing, we do load testing. And all of this, we call it also like a peak readiness review. For example, during Diwali or Dasara in India and Christmas in US or European countries, there is so much of transaction which is happening at that point in time, right? Usually it is like not so many, like maybe there are hundreds of people, but during that time it's thousands of people having a transaction on the website, right? So it should not break. And at that point in time, hackers should not take advantage of it. So all those testing parameters are already put in, but we have also seen there have been breaches, right? Even Google and Amazon's also, there have been breaches. So while everybody's intent is to make the system secure, strong, and very, very strengthy and like a non-hacker free, right? But if there is a doubt, then I would always recommend, key in every time you make a transaction rather than storing it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Madam.
Hi, Tam.
Yes, sir.
I think there is a question.
There's a question from the chat box.
We have big data, data analytics, process data with simple processing. How does it all cope up with big data in real time? Okay. So if you really look at it, data can come into a system in only two ways. One, it can come through a batch file, which can be intermittent, right? In the sense once in a certain point in time. And there is a real-time data flow, which is like a water pipe. It keeps coming into the system, right? So there is only two ways typically how you acquire this data from the systems. And if you're asking how does this cope up with, you have to build these two different mechanisms in your platform so that it can cater to both batch as well as real-time data capture. Does that answer the question? Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay. Now I request our VC sir to share his thoughts. A few words for this webinar. Sir?
Yeah. So thank you very much for inviting me to this webinar. This is the 7th webinar I'm participating since morning. And so I become much more busy person than, whatever during this COVID challenge, it has been, I thought that I will not be having any work. So I'm very happy that today we had Pradyumna speaking on data analytics. Thank you, sir, for being with us today. And I congratulate the Department of Computer Science and this organizers, Professor Arun Lata and Venkatesh, for organizing this data analytics webinar. How do I start? Because I have taught computer science for 41 years. And I started as a database management earlier. We started what is known as a database as a subject. Then it became database management system. Then afterwards, we saw that online transaction processing. Then afterwards, we heard a technology called data science. Then now data analyst and data analytics. So all these are in the one or the other form associated with data. How do you actually, what is the use of data without analyzing the data is the first question. How do you, without, you have huge amount of data and huge amount of data is generated every minute. It goes to billions of gigabytes. You can say that in, say about 5 billion gigabyte is being generated per day or more. I am still not updated on it, but having so much amount of data, what are we going to do? It is just like Hanuman bringing the entire mountain, Himalayan mountain, at the feet of Rama. And then Rama has to again go and pick up that Sanjeevani. So data analytics will come into picture at that time. So you have to, if you say analytics, it is just not, trying to analyze data, you are trying to discover from the data, interpret the data, communicate meaningful patterns in the data. That is data analytics. How do you use it? Machine learning techniques, artificial intelligence, deep learning, all these are involved in analytics. It can be analytics, can be predictive, prescriptive, descriptive, all types of analytics can take place. But finally, how the data analytics person or employer is going to be paid more.
than a computer science engineer. Now, computer science engineer is just a subset of a data scientist, I can say. A data scientist is more useful than a computer science engineer now, because a data analyst or a data scientist is going to have a subset as a computer science engineer, and then he is going to apply his techniques, algorithms on the data which is generated and which is huge and which is colossal, which is a huge amount of data which is being generated by every single application. For example, you just take a snap on your mobile. Then what is the data? 1.2 megabit, and 1.2 megabit camera is just taken to pattern. That is data. How are you going to use the data? After that, you are going to crop, you are going to rotate, you are going to give a shade, and that is, you are going to enhance the qualities of that image. That is data analytics. And when or how are you going to send this data to somebody else? When you send it to another person, that means it is bandwidth. The bandwidth plus the data which you are sending. How are you going to? How is it useful? So you are going to send a photograph to your friend. The friend says, this is not a nice photograph. It does not have a good setting. It does not have a good background. So again, you try to transform that photo. So some more data is going to be added. The data, the hugeness of the data, which is going to be incorporated into the photograph, is how you are which will enhance the photograph and then send it to it is sent to your friend, and that friend says, now the photograph is good. This photograph is used for some advertisement. And therefore, the person who is there in the advertisement company will again do some type of transformation to that photograph, and you will see. This I'm just sending in just one photograph on a mobile. How so many people are involved? If you take the applications of data analytics, 50% of the people are now engaged in bank. So you can have different types of application for this data. Anything which you perform now, whether you perform it as a photograph, or you are transporting, or you're going to talk, or you're going to send audio, or you're going to take a class, there you require a data analyst. The data analyst is paid now more than a computer science engineer. And I'm always thinking, what is the data scientist not know? He should also know database, MySQL, SQL, Hive, Pig, all these type of programs he should do, and he should also be accustomed to it. The trends which you see in a data analyst, and is much sought after than a computer science engineer, is going to be very lucrative, because a person who just becomes a computer engineer is not enough. Now he should know even other programming languages. Python should be known, and he should also be well versed in C, C++, Java language. All these are required. So once you become a computer science engineer, a good computer science engineer, then you have a chance of becoming a good data analyst. It is not just sufficient that you program. You should also be able to. One part is economist. Well, like me, I have done economics and PhD and also computer science. Now it is required whether what type of techniques, what type of statistical techniques, what type of mathematical techniques is to be added. So knowledge cannot be just in one area. It should be interdisciplinary, it should be multidisciplinary, and to become a data scientist, you have to be a multidisciplinarian than just being a computer science engineer. I was talking about what are all the this thing, we call them by different names: senior data analyst, data scientist, and all types of names are given. Finally, what type of knowledge you require? Is it see, if you go to economics, like a portfolio analyst, or a pricing analyst, or a financial analyst, a product analyst, or an Excel analyst, then you require, whether you might be wondering whether you require a commerce graduate, or a computer science graduate, or an economics graduate. Because when you try to take a fraud and risk analyst in a banking application, then you are going to find you'll be caught between the devil and the deep sea. One, you are going to be a computer science engineer, and two, you are going to be an economist. How are you going to
integrate this. Application is one thing, technology is another thing, knowledge and skill another thing. Though the data analyst is being paid very well, better than a software engineer, better than a computer science engineer. Now you might want to think, oh, you want to straight away jump into data analyst. You cannot. You cannot become a straight away data analyst because you require some basic knowledge about computer science and how the computer application and also the data, its storage, and it's how you try to shift the data, how you try to cleanse the data, and how to you manipulate the data and then present it to a real application. I do not know what all Pradyumna does because I joined very late. If I was there, if I had access to all the entire speech, then I would have covered. But data analytics is analytical skill, numerical skill, technical and computation skill. It is attention to detail, it is business skill, it is communication skill. It is all put together. Then you see a data analyst, a data carrier. And every company now will employ a computer scientist and also a data analyst. Do not think that a data engineer has no role to play or his language set is not required. And if you just become a computer science engineer, you cannot become a data analyst. It is all in one. And that is what the new education policy is trying to envisage. That means knowledge does not have any boundaries. Just like this online education does not have geographical boundaries, cultural boundaries, data boundaries are also removed. So you have to be a multidisciplinary, multi-specialist to become a data analyst. And I think that is enough for me as a presidential remark, because if I keep on talking, I'll go on for hours together. The truth about the data analytic that it reduces cost. It gives you better enhanced experience. You will be able to make good decisions. You will be saving millions and millions of dollars by having a data analyst. And that's what I would like to say, whether it is a government, whether it is a manufacturing thing, whether it is a banking, whether it is other type of professional service, you will require a data analyst, and every company, every organization, every educational institution will require a data analyst, one form or the other. And therefore, new trend and new jargon is a data scientist is very much required in an organization. Just like a mother is required in a family, a lady is required in a family, you require a data analyst in every aspect and every application. Thank you one and all for giving me an opportunity to talk on this data analyst. I mean, make a presidential address on data analytics. Thank you, Pradyumna, for giving this illuminating lecture. Thank you, the Department of Computer Science and its head of the department, Dilip Kumar, Deepa Shenoy, Triveni, Aruna, I think all the staff members. You know that all are my students, and out of 17 staff members, 14 are my students. And so I'm very happy and thrilled. And I see all my students in the Department of Computer Science. And when I have come to the end of my career, all my students have taken over. Thank you one and all for organizing such conferences. Bangalore University is in the forefront of online education. Breaking all barriers of geography. And we are now getting experts even from US and China. In fact, China people participated from China. People participated from Australia and London. And therefore, the world is shrinking. The world has become a virtual room. Virtual reality has become real. Stay safe. Social distancing is social vaccine until you get the real physical vaccine. And wish you all the best. Thank you one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your informative talk.
I request Dr. Pratibha Vani PM to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, Shweta. On behalf of Department of Computer Science and Engineering UVC, I, Dr. Pratibha Vani PM, all the participants. At the outset, I would like to express my profound gratitude and thanks to Dr. Venugopal KR sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Bangalore University, Bengaluru, who has been the backbone of this webinar and a guiding force in all these activities. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank Professor H.N. Ramesh, Principal, UVC, for his presence and support. Thank you, sir. I now thank Professor P. Deepa Shenoy, Dean, Faculty of Engineering, and Professor, Department, Computer Science, Engineering, and UVC for the great moral support and guidance. Thank you, ma'am. I would like to thank Dr. Dilip Kumar SM, Professor and Chairman, Department of Computer Science and Engineering, UVC, Bangalore, for his support and encouragement. Thank you, sir. On behalf of the Department of CSE, I extend my gratitude to the distinguished speaker, Mr. Pradyumna, for enlightening us by sharing his knowledge on the application of data analytics in the industry. We thank you, sir. I thank all the members of organizing committee, faculty, Department of CSE, and other departments UVCE, guest faculty, research scholars, PG and UG students for their supportive participation. Thank you. Last but not the least, I thank all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Sweta.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
After this session, your feedback link will be displayed. So all of you can give a feedback, and all of you can join for one more webinar, that is next webinar on 8th August at 11:30 a.m. The topic is Paradigm Ahead, dealing with leadership, peers, and uncertainty in organization. Hello.